host and moderator, Coach Steve Toth, and we are coming to you live from our Denver, Colorado studios. And our theme today is, how is being negative working for you? Let me introduce you to our guest cast as well as our self-growth cast. And our guest cast today is Summer Simonton, and she's joining us from the beautiful state of California. Welcome to the show. All right, and next to, I think next to where she is.
I think Summer got dropped.
Okay, let's not have technology conversations on the show, please, since we are live. So next to, actually above our guest cast, Summer, on the left is Helen Carrison, and she's also part of our self-growth cast, and she's coming to us from Belgium. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Steve. Great to be with you.
All right. And then in the middle, who we have is Ninon de Verderosa, and she's coming to us from, she's also part of our self-growth cast, and she's coming to us from Las Vegas. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Fantastic. And then right below Ninon, we have Jamie Lerner, and she is our self-growth cast as well, and she's coming to us from Chicago. And now that we have our guest cast on the line, let me introduce her. Her name is Summer Simonton, and she's joining us from California. Welcome to the show. Would you please acknowledge, Summer, that you can hear us?
I can't hear anything.
Okay. All right, so here we go. So our theme today is, how is being negative working for you? So let me demonstrate that right now. and I'm going to be negative for a second. So I don't know what's going on with Summer, and it's going to be a little interesting to kick off our show without our guest cast. So while the technical team is working on that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how our show is going to go today. So the first segment of our show is going to be, we're going to be actually exploring in a dialogue the issues and the problems that all of us are having when we are being negative. And then in the second half of the program today, we're going to be exploring, again in a dialogue, some of the tools and some of the modalities that our guest cast as well as our cast members have used either for themselves or for their clients to help people stay positive. So, do we have everybody back online?
Steve, may I just interrupt you 1 second? There's a little bit of noise in the background. I think the studio in the background is on. Okay? So we can't hear you.
All right, so in the future, could we do that in the IM of Skype, please, so that we don't have to talk about this on the show? And I'm going to be okay with it for right now because I have no other choice.
Sorry, Steve.
That's okay.
Someone had to tell you.
The IM in Skype, I'm going to do a little technical coaching. The IM in Skype is really the umbilical cord between the studio and our cast members and our guest cast. All right, so let's get started. So the leading question is for our guest cast, Summer. Do you feel that thinking negatively is second nature for a lot of people, and why?
Yes, I do. I think it is second nature. It's our default programming a lot of the time to think negatively rather than positively. Absolutely.
And why?
Sorry?
Why?
Why?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it's what we collect over the years. From the moment we're born, we're taking in a lot of stuff. It goes into our subconscious. We take it on board as reality and true. And it leads us to be rather fearful. And when we're fearful, we are negative. So it's obviously more complex than that, but I think that's a lot of the reason behind it. And then it becomes a habit, and habits, we become actually quite comfortable with them. And so I think a lot of the time, actually, we are being negative, but we're comfortable with it because it's familiar and it's home territory. And so, yes, we feel okay with it. And it's only really when we go out of that space into something else that we become aware that we'd been there in the first place. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, that was going to be my follow-up question. Do you feel that people even hear themselves being negative? Are they aware of it?
Well, I think that it's important that we understand that it's second nature, because first nature is positive, that we come into this world very positive and open, and we learn along the way anything negative. So I think that we are completely unaware of what we have collected, as Helen says, throughout our lives. But I think our first nature is positive. So all negativity is learned and acquired. It's not anything to do with our natural state of being.
I love your answer, Jamie, because I'm known as a very positive person, and I truly think positive. But I think that also from Helen, that people don't realize how negative they're being or how they are. I don't think sometimes they realize that. That's just maybe normal for them. It's the other person that sees the negativity in it sometimes and picks it up because they're thinking positive. So we all think in different ways, but I'm definitely opposed of negative. I do not like anything negative. I don't think it's necessary. I think it's a bad frame of mind. I think to be positive about something is better than saying something negative.
So does that mean, Ninan, that this part of the show is a little bit challenging for you?
I think for Ninan that you're more tuned in to your positive side. So the negativity doesn't resonate with you.
And yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
So,
well, is that a conscious effort you're making? Nana, I can hear the ladies speaking because I believe that we're born positive, and then we start observing our environment. And I mean, I know for myself, I was a very negative person, and I don't know why, because I think my parents were pretty positive people. But somehow I perceived the negativity, and I started taking that on, and I started living that kind of negative life, always expecting something horrible to happen and living like a drama queen, really.
Well, if you expect something horrible to happen, it will.
It takes a conscious effort.
Yeah, but if you expect something,
it always will. But
I
didn't know that at the time, you know.
I think it's also a lot to do with the people you surround yourself with.
And that's how I used to start my day until I came.
Okay, hang on for a second. I'm experiencing that we're talking over each other. Is that real, or is it a technical problem?
No, that's real.
That's for real.
Okay, and I perceive that as negative. So let's give each other the respect to finish our sentences.
It's
please.
A woman thing.
Okay, now we're all going to be silent.
Okay, so who was talking last?
All of us, I think.
Okay. All right, so let me go back to something that I was asking Ninan, which is kind of interesting for me. I asked you, since we talked about, actually the leading question was about having people having the experience that negativity is a natural state for them. So then it must be also true that there are people on this planet that being positive is a natural state. So would it be possible that, Ninan, you happen to be one of those people?
I happen to be one of those, definitely the positive side of life.
Yes.
And it might be because of my upbringing, which we always relate to, the first 5 years of our life or whatever. And my mother and father argued a lot, tremendous amount. And I vowed I never want to be near that. And I truly I vowed that about 10 years ago that I did not want anybody negative in my life. And if they were around, I wouldn't be rude, but I just wouldn't associate with them or be with them until they change their minds to be more positive. Yes, we do have negative things in our life that we probably have to confront, but let's confront them and not be negative about them, because if we're negative about them, we'll never sort them out.
Okay. So would this also mean that perhaps this first half of the show, maybe a little bit challenging for you, Ninan?
Probably if it's negative, but no, I don't mind facing it because I'm so positive. So I know it's going to change, so it doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
I'm not going to go to the negative field of it. I'm going to go to the positive field of it and turn it around to make those negative people positive.
Okay.
That's okay.
Yeah. So
I have to say something. It's so interesting because positive people do not tend to attract negative people. And negative people have no interest in being around positive people. And I have to say that the law of attraction works beautifully in that case because positive people tend to flock together and negative people tend to flock together.
Okay.
So it kind of works its way out. On the other
That's
hand,
true.
it makes it more difficult if you're wanting to change your behavior or become more aware, then you must stray from that crowd of people that you tend to spend most of the time with. And that can be really hard because then people think that you are somehow above them. I think it's difficult for people to justify why they're wanting to make that shift when they are moving from one crowd to another. And
okay. Yeah. So that may be true.
Yes, I can.
Yeah, so hang on for a second, Summer. So that may be true for people in their personal lives, but I don't believe that that would be true for our business life because we don't really have a choice. People are working at wherever they're working, and if they're working with people that are negative, it's not like you can remove those people. So you have to learn how to work
To
with them.
deal with it. Well, you deal with it.
Sure, you can, but it's, it's interesting because when you're positive, you can take anything negative and put a positive spin on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So, without changing the person, you just observe them differently than the way they are to serve yourself, which is called selective sifting, which we can get into in the second half. It is a tool.
Okay, awesome.
I love what Jamie said, though, when Jamie said, the negative hang around together and the positive hang around together. I have two girlfriends, and believe me, they're both negative. And I've known one of them for a long, long time, and I've noticed she's changed a little bit because she's with this negative person. And it drives me crazy because I'm looking at them and they're complaining and bitching and doing all this stuff. And I'm like saying, get a hold of it, girls. It's okay. It's not that bad. But they do hang around together, and they're both the same.
But I would like to hear from you anyway, Summer, when you were talking about earlier in the show that somehow you switched into a lot of negativity at a certain part of your life. What did that cost you in terms of your health or anything else, relationships?
Well, it cost me a very unhappy life. But see, when I would hear somebody who was a naturally positive person, like maybe Jamie, I would say, keep that to yourself, because she would be saying, you just need to think positively. But I couldn't relate to that, It didn't compute for me. I told myself, well, I was born this way, and I can't help it, and you were born positive, and so you're lucky, and I'm not. And, of course, all my friends were negative people at the time. And I can tell you my life was not very happy. And I told myself, if I keep eating like this, I'm going to gain weight. And I gained 40 pounds. And I told myself, my apartment's probably going to catch on fire. And it did. And I told myself so many things. And I didn't realize that, it was affecting my life. And, when I became a positive person, when I came into the teaching we'll talk about later, when I became a positive person, you were right. My friends didn't want anything to do with me. They thought I was obnoxious.
Right.
They couldn't stand me anymore. And that was a blessing.
That's hard, yeah.
You didn't want them anyway.
That was a blessing. I let them all go.
Okay, so I believe that negative people have, what I call some kind of a God out there, and they call it Murphy's Law. How often any one of you have heard or hear people referring to Murphy's Law?
Of course.
Not that often, actually. I don't hear that. I don't think they really know.
Okay, well, maybe in Las Vegas there's no Murphy's Law because it's all about luck.
They're all losers.
Murphy's Law is what negative people say. So
Yeah, so that's why I don't know.
That's why you're not hearing it anymore, Ninon.
exactly.
Okay, so how do we connect? How do we connect this in terms of negativity and our frequency to how powerful we are as human beings in terms of creating?
Well, we're very powerful and we're vibrational beings. So everything we do happens through vibration. And what we think about is what we create. So our thoughts and managing our thoughts are so important in terms of how we are going to conduct our lives. And that's, I think, a universal law. That's not Murphy's Law. That's a law.
Exactly.
That's
Very well said.
Yeah. Yeah, I always like to think of it like every word has its own frequency. And as we tune in, it's like tuning into a radio dial. And as we tune in to what it is we want to make sure that all of our words are the frequency of what we want. It's all a positive frequency of what we want. And it just was so exciting to me to come into this teaching and to see it happen so quickly, to see the result of how when I changed my words and I changed the way I thought and felt about things, my whole world changed.
And you felt better, because that's really the reason
yes.
to do it, is to feel good. So, positive thinking makes you feel good. And from that, everything follows. So I would say that's the reason to do it, because it feels good.
Yeah, it does. It's funny, I have to say that I'm living in Vegas at the moment, and we've had temperatures of 110, 111. And everybody sort of says, oh, isn't it hot outside? And they're all complaining. And I look at them, and I say, well, it might be 111 if you think it's 111. It actually is 111. If you think it's really hot, it's really going to be hot. I said, so it doesn't really affect me, because I don't think of it being hot. I know it's hot, obviously, but I don't think of it. I don't thrive on that being hot. I know how to handle it, but I don't think of it. And I think if you think it's very hot and it's really bad, then it really is. But if you don't think that way, you can handle it. And it's amazing how if you just those few ways of thinking, how you can handle something that is really not very good.
So in terms of people that are being negative in their lives, how do you gauge that when you come across some friends or you come across coworkers, associates, where you may have to make a decision that they're just so negative that I must disconnect myself from them, or is there another way to handle it?
Well,
Yes.
I think...
Well...
Oh, you go, Summer. Go ahead.
Well, I have visualized them moving on to something better for themselves. When I've also stayed as far away from them as I could. When I used to work for other people, I would either stay away from them or I'd visualize them moving on to something better for themselves, and they would. And it'd be good for them, it'd be good for us. I find I feel very allergic to negative people, because it takes, for me, I must do everything I can to be conscious and stay positive, because I can go to the dark side very quickly. I can become as negative as anybody quickly and easily. So it's a conscious choice.
Yeah. I think if you smile a lot, it helps as well. I think if you smile a lot, because a smile, it must be something to do with just the physical muscles or whatever you use when you smile, because when you smile, you sort of smile internally as well, and so I found for myself particularly, if I'm smiling, then I'm smiling inside. And if I'm smiling inside, I'm positive. And it's almost like it sort of protects me, if you like, from negativity. So I'm able to respond to negativity differently. I don't get involved in it. It's like you can let it wash over. But I think we're going into the second part of the show.
Are you also saying, Helen, that you're not having any negative thoughts anymore?
I have negative thoughts. Oh, yeah.
And what do you do with them?
I have negative thoughts. The first thing I do is, when I become aware of them, which is pretty soon now, because I've sort of had practice over the years, become aware of them, and then I change them. It's as simple as that, you know. I'll become aware of them. I may become aware of them through a feeling in my body or whatever. But as soon as I become aware of it, then I choose to respond, and my choice is to change my thoughts.
Okay, what about when something negative happens to you? How do you respond?
I respond by seeing, by choosing.
And an example
to view it
would be
a different
fantastic
way.
too.
Something
Do you have an
negative
example?
happens. Say, for example, I'm driving along and somebody cuts up in front of me, or somebody does something which is aggressive or whatever. Now, I can choose to respond to that in various different ways. I can choose to respond aggressively. I can choose not to respond. Or if I feel that something comes up in me, I can then be aware of it and I can just let it go. And I just find now that I'm totally relaxed in those sort of situations when anything happens, because I can let it go, because I know that actually it's the other person's stuff. You know, it's nothing to do with me. If I get angry or annoyed, who feels that? Does the guy or the woman in the car feel it? No, I do.
And that's a great point, because sometimes to point out someone being negative makes you feel negative. So the best thing to do is not to make anybody wrong based on how you're feeling. It's just to acknowledge how you want to be and allow the other person to be however they're being, because their negativity can and only affect them. Or you can take that on by observing their negativity and pointing it out to them, which clearly is not going to feel good. Yeah. So I don't think we're here to change anybody.
I think it's very much that. It's live and let live to a sort of the nth degree. You know, it really is. You know, if somebody wants to do something stupid, they do it.
And you get to choose to be a part of it or not to be.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so do you have an example of that?
Me?
Jamie?
I'm around negative people all the time, and you know what? I purposely put myself around negative people so that I can practice allowing. So I can practice allowing them to be however they want to be, and how I can stay in my good feeling place. Mm-hmm. And it's wonderful to know that you're free to go and move about the world and not change anybody. All you have control over is how you feel and the thoughts that you are choosing to think about. And I practice this all the time. And
how do they deal with that? They must somehow have to deal with it.
People don't like me. A lot of people don't like me, and that's okay. I get it. I totally get it. Like, their impression of me is that I'm above them, and I'm not. I'm just so true to staying connected to myself. I'm not allowing anybody to get to me, because I value me, and I'm staying in that good feeling place.
That's because you have,
that's all there is to it.
Very, very interesting. So I wanted to share. I wanted to share something. I just had an experience a few days ago. I was at a party, and one of the gentlemen at the party, we ended up having a conversation about politics. Imagine that, and that usually doesn't turn out well. And you know, I later on learned that he was in the military, and you know, he's gone through World War II and a lot of experiences. And throughout the conversation, I challenged him about a number of things, and I really got him. I really got him going to the point where he was engaging, or wanted to engage me in about what would have I done, for example, in World War II when the Japanese attacked us and we ended up dropping the bomb. What would I have done? And I chose not to respond because what I was noticing in my body is that if I engage in that conversation, what could happen is we're going downwards, and it could get pretty ugly pretty fast. Mm-hmm. So I chose not to respond, and I felt the gentleman's energy, and it was very confronting, and it was very strong, and it was an amazing experience actually. And I have witnessed before when I was at different parties and events where people actually continued to go downward, and what ended up happening is either a fight or somebody hurt somebody or things like that. So has anything like this has ever happened to any of you?
Sure.
I think all of us it's happened probably. It's happened to me, but I haven't. I usually address it though. I do usually. What I will not walk away from anything. That I will not do. I will think about it and look at them, and I will try to change it, but also give my opinion, but give it a very strong opinion that this is my opinion, and I am entitled to opinion. Most people don't think you are entitled to an opinion. They just want to do all the talking. It's their opinion, but I'm very, very strong with that. I will stand on my ground. I will say what I feel. I will not argue. That I will not do, because I feel they have their opinion of what it is and I have my opinion, and that I will not argue about. And I think I'm entitled to that and they are entitled to that as well. And we just have to be grown up enough and tall enough and strong enough to handle it. And that's all it is handling. If you walk away, you've kind of lost as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. So which reminds me about something. So, and this something is defending ourselves. So when we get into these kind of dialogues or conversations or discussions, does defending ourselves, does that make sense?
Well,
I don't think it makes sense. I mean,
Go ahead,
I started teaching about laws of attraction and the power of our words and thoughts in 1980, and I was always accused of being an alien or crazy or something, but it didn't matter to me. It made me kind of laugh because I knew it had changed my life. So I don't really care what people think
Good for you.
about what I believe. It doesn't matter to me.
You have your opinion.
When I believe what I believe, I just agree with them. I say, I know this looks crazy and it works for me. It's okay if you don't want to do it, but I know for me it changed my life.
I think if you come from the
afraid of it.
space, that there's no real right and there's no real wrong, like you were saying, Ninon, there's opinion, then we can't really be defensive, because if you're defensive, in a way, you're trying to say, yes, I'm right, against you being you're wrong.
Exactly.
So it's sort of counterintuitive almost if you know. No.
It doesn't matter if you both have an opinion. You're entitled to an opinion.
It's all about perception anyway, Ninon, isn't it? It's about perception. It's how we perceive, after everything's gone through our various filters in our conscious mind, subconscious mind, whatever. It's what comes out the other end.
And we all perceive things very differently. You perceive something can be said to you that you think it's this way, said to me, I think it's this way. Well, we're both entitled to that. Should not get angry about it, should not get nervous about it, and should not get this opinionated thing about it, but it's just how you feel and how you perceive it.
It's each person's reality.
Okay,
and what does it really
next
matter?
time, Steve,
what does
don't
it
walk
matter,
away.
though? What does it matter?
I didn't walk away. I didn't walk away. I stayed at the party. I just didn't engage.
Yeah, and that's the how you chose to respond, and that's your choice. I think it's absolutely, crucial to understand that we don't actually have to respond. We don't have to react. We can choose not to, because I think so often, and I was like this for a long time, somebody challenged or asked me a question, or even, with my kids, I felt I had to respond straight away. But when you realize that actually you can say, well, I'll have a reflect on that and I'll come back to you. Or you can choose to say, actually this is something that I don't really want to address. I choose not to. Wow. As soon as you realize you can do that, then you set yourself free.
Yes.
Yes, I actually felt that if I responded, who would be responding is my ego. Because me connected to myself and to love and to everybody that was at the party wouldn't even be part of that conversation. I mean, I didn't want to be part of that conversation. So getting back to what Ninon said just a minute ago about opinions, so let me ask you this, the entire cast. So when we're having opinions, who's having the opinions?
Both of you. Both of you are having an opinion about
No, but in
something.
terms of you as a human being, who's having opinions?
Are you talking about, are you engaging your ego? Is that what you're referring
Yes,
to?
that's what I'm.
Well,
That's
I think it depends if you're connected to yourself. And I
Correct.
think that when we're connected to ourselves, that our ego naturally falls away and there's nothing to defend against. So when we're connected to ourselves, when we express ourselves, I think that we don't have any defensive posture. So we come across very differently than when our ego is engaged. And our tone is softened and our information is presented it just very differently. There's just an ease about our communication, and it feels different.
It's coming from a different place, isn't it, Jamie?
Absolutely.
It's not coming from our head so
Yeah.
much as from our heart, our core,
Yes.
Yeah.
We feel very secure. We feel very secure who we are and what we are. Whether, as you said, Helen, whether we answer or don't answer, we don't have to. Steve, I want to ask you a question though. When you didn't answer this guy and you obviously stayed at the party, was there any friction between you and him at the party for the rest of the evening or whatever?
No, there wasn't a friction. I actually went over to him later on and shook his hand and told him that I loved him, even that he had some very strange ideas.
And you actually said that?
Yes.
Good for you.
Yes.
That's funny.
What did he say back to you then?
He smiled.
He said, "I'm having
And
nothing
he
to do
said,
with this guy."
he enjoyed your company.
Oh.
Wow, that's great.
Nice.
So
You know,
you were both
really,
happy.
I think when you know what you believe and you know who you are, what does it matter what other people think? I have a friend who completely changed her political views, and they're diametrically opposed to mine. And so I've just made it clear we cannot have that conversation
And that's
because it goes nowhere. Because she's not going to change my mind, I'm not going to change hers,
And that's not the point.
No, it's to each
You know,
his own.
yeah, people get worked up, and I mean, I'm happy to have. I love to hear other people's ideas and opinions. It's just not when it becomes an argument. So
Right.
I don't really care what other people.
So
why
what
do I
created
keep-
the shift for you, Summer? You were negative for a long time, and then something shifted. What was it?
Well, I picked up a book called Dynamic Laws of Healing by Catherine Ponder. And in that book, I opened it up to a page that said our negative words and thoughts get results as easily as positive words and thoughts. And in that moment, it resonated in my body. But I was very skeptical because I had lived my life as a negative person. I thought, wait a minute, if this is true, then I'm not a victim. Then I've actually created those things, and I was shocked and excited, and so I gave it a month. I said I'm going to give this a month because I don't know that I believe this, and I started testing it, and I started visualizing different things, and I started getting parking everywhere in San Francisco, and I quit smoking, and I doubled my sales, and I lost 40 pounds, and I said, I have something here.
Wow.
And I have to teach it. And I was petrified of public speaking, so I had to visualize myself as a public speaker. And my life completely changed. That's why I said, I don't really care if people believe it or not. I mean,
clearly you're the living, breathing example that it has changed. I mean, so it's not your words, it's your actions, it's you're walking your talk, you're doing what you teach, and I think that is, in essence, that's our responsibility as coaches and teachers, and to do just that. So.
Absolutely.
It's funny because I had an example of that yesterday. Only yesterday, I have a couple of buildings here in Vegas, and they paid the rent on the 1st of August. Well, they hadn't paid the rent, and we know where we are with the 25th of August, and I'm okay. And I literally put my mind to it yesterday morning and went out and I collected all my money in all different places. And it was really quite funny because even in the mail, it even came into the mail yesterday. And it was like where I put myself, and it all attached itself together and it all came together. And I said, enough of this. And I went out and that was the end of it. And it was all positive and all great. And I was happy going out doing it and obviously happy on the return.
Fantastic.
But it is definitely where you put yourself. It's like I had 8 emails to send out this morning. And I sat down, I'm going to do it, and just did it. And it's funny how you can really, really do it. And thinking, positive side of it, because at the end of it, you feel so relieved and so happy that it's done.
Yeah, so actually you did more than just being in a positive conversation. You actually got into positive action.
Yes, positive
That's the
action
thing.
is definitely important.
Yeah.
Very, very important.
Right. So how else can we help our viewers to stay positive? What other suggestions or tools or modalities you have? Anybody that would help people?
I hate to take this, but I have a good one. When I go shopping in a market, and everybody says you go to check out, and they look at you, they say, "How are you doing?" And I look at them and I said, "Whoever I can." And they look at me, and believe me, every single time they laugh. And I look at them and I said, "It wasn't the question. It was the answer. I just wanted to see a smile on your face." That's all. And I said every time, and my girlfriend says, "Nina, you can't say that. You can't say it." I said, "Yes, I can." And it's a positive reaction. And it puts a smile on someone's face. So my thing out there to our audience is, and I think Summer said it earlier, if you walk around, no, Helen said it actually, if you walk around with a happy face, you walk around with a long face, you're going to get long attitudes back to you. Walk around with a smile, I guarantee they'll smile back at you. Guarantee
Smiling
it.
is really, really important. I'm particularly here in Belgium in particular, it's not a service-oriented country. Customer service is pretty low on the list of priorities, and so you can walk into a store and you can wait to be served, because the person is having a personal conversation on their phone or something, And in that sort of situation, you could actually choose to get a little bit annoyed.
Yeah.
Right. However,
Why?
I just smile. I just smile the whole time, and by the time I've finished having the connection with the salesperson, they're smiling too, and they can't do enough for you. It works like that. My partner has a phrase, and he says, "Yep, we're changing customer service in Belgium, one Belgian at a time."
I love it.
That's how it feels sometimes.
That's good. I have something I do with my clients to help them become more conscious, because it's really making that conscious effort. Like when I came into this teaching and I discovered that my words and thoughts were what was creating my life, I decided, and I could see that my life had changed through that. I realized that what I have to do is figure out a way to help people stay more conscious. And so I give everybody a rubber band and have them put it on their wrist. And when they hear themselves saying something in a negative way or a weak way, even like, a negative way, like talking about what they don't want, or speaking in a weak way, like if, or I hope, or gee, I wish, or maybe, or I'll try. That's my favorite. I'll try, because there's no such thing. I have them pop that rubber band and replace it with a positive. And it is amazing, the people who commit to that, how life-changing it can be.
So in relationships, do you notice that when you ask people, okay, so what kind of a girlfriend or boyfriend do you want next? What people have a tendency to go to is they will start describing what they don't want them to be like.
Oh, definitely.
So how can we switch that? Like, as viewers are watching us right now, so how would you switch that for yourself? So,
okay, I would have them speak about what they do want, only what they do want, and I would have them wear that rubber band. And if they were to say anything in the negative, I would pop the rubber band. Okay. Just speaking about what they do want. I want a man who is wonderful and loving and spiritual and a great communicator, and on with the positives. And people are so habituated with the negative that, believe me, the rubber band helps. And they don't even realize they're speaking about the negative. But once we speak in the positive and we get completely aligned, our energy, our vibration, our frequency, our words, our thoughts, our feelings are in alignment with what it is we want, we can manifest it instantly. Yeah. I mean, the guy I'm dating now, it took me 9 hours to manifest him.
It's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Wow.
That's not long.
Is that a record, Summer?
Why 9?
No, actually, 7 hours is my record.
I haven't tried my record yet.
Okay.
I just want to get back to something that's really fundamental, which is, okay, we're going to manifest things and we're going to manifest people and money and all these things with positive thoughts, but mostly we're going to feel good. And so once people can start connecting, thinking positive with feeling better, that's where it has to start. Because you will learn based on how you feel, whether you're speaking or feeling negatively or positively. So, and then all the other stuff shows up, but it's really just got to be about feeling good. Mm-hmm. And so that's just so basic, and yet I think people need permission to know that it's so accessible to them. Okay. It's all about just changing a thought to feel better, identifying the feeling, and making a mental note of that when I reach for a thought that feels better, I feel better.
Yeah, so that feeling better comes from the inside, not the outside, because we tend to look for our feeling good to come externally to us, from things around us, from other people, from experiences that are external to us. But in actual fact, the greatest feeling of well-being and feeling good comes from inside.
Yes.
And once you experience that, you want more.
And you're free. And you're free. You're no longer dependent upon other people, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
I like what you said about permission, giving us, Jamie, when you said giving yourself permission.
Well, also,
why do we have to give ourselves permission? We are already who we are, and it's like, well, we always think we're not allowed to do this, or we can't do that, or we shouldn't do this, and that's not true. We can do anything we want. Giving ourselves permission to do it, and we actually can do it. It's not really a permission. It's something that we can actually go ahead and do it, and not worry about, as we said earlier, other people thinking about what we're doing. Don't worry about it. Just do what you want to do and how you want to do it. You don't have to give yourself permission.
As a society, though, we get rewarded for hard work. So when people talk about how hard they work, I mean, that doesn't impress me particularly. But in terms of society is all about that. So especially women, I think that we take on so many different roles.
Well, to me, I believe when people go on about how their work,
okay,
when people go on about how hard they're working, how hard it is, what a struggle they're having, I know that they're not in the flow with this divine energy that works with all of us. And we become much more magnetic when we are feeling good, like you said, Jamie. When we're feeling good, our vibration is higher. And when our vibration and our frequency is higher, we become very magnetic. And the happier we can get, the more magnetic we are. It's kind of like I say, when you go to a party, you don't look around at the most negative person who's sulking in the corner and go, gee, I want to be with that person. It's like, I don't know about you, but I mean, I look around and go, those people are having fun. I want to be with them.
Yeah, so there's a good opportunity here to mention something, which is, so when you go into a party, I don't think, for me, I'm not even focusing on who's at the party at the moment, unless they happen to be extremely attractive. Then I will be distracted. But when I walk into a party, I'm noticing first who I am being, and what my energy is like, and am I connected to myself, and am I feeling good, and am I smiling, and am I having a good time, before I worry about anything else.
Well, you shouldn't have to worry about that. You should just have that feeling before you go in. There's my positive side of it. You shouldn't walk in worried about whether you're going to fit or not fit. You should already have that before you enter the door of how you are and you walk in. And if you walk in all happy and feeling good and standing tall, and you're going to and you are going to have a good time regardless of anybody else there, then you're going to project that out there, and people will definitely want to talk to you.
Yeah, that may be, Ninam, but you are a natural positive person.
Yeah.
And so what we are trying to do right now, for you, that's a piece of cake.
But what I'm saying is, Steve, is that if you do that, if you get yourself together before you walk into the door, if you're going to walk into the door, oh, I lost my keys, or it's raining, you put all this negative stuff on you, you, before you walk into that door and you think, I'm going to have a good time here, then you will have a good time, because you're going to, once you say those words, I'm going to have a good time, I guarantee there's a smile on your face. And you're going to walk in, you're going to feel good. And people are going to immediately say, oh, hi, how are you? And then make you even feel better. So it's before you walk into that door.
Exactly, Nina, and it's like sometimes when I invite people to a party, they'll go, well, do you think this is going to be a good party? And I say, well, I think it's going to be a good party, but do you think it's going to be a good party?
Yeah, it's what you make it. It's exactly. If you want it to be a miserable party, it'll be a miserable party. If everybody wants to argue, they will. But if you actually yourself are holding the party and you're in a miserable mood, well, the party might be a little bit down. But if people walk in and you say, hi, how are you? And walked up to them, and even if you don't know them, it's just the energy you give as a person. And actually, that's all you have.
And I think it's choosing for yourself as well. You know, choosing what you want, you know. If you want to have a good time, if you feel like going to the party, if you feel like it, if it's good for you, then go for it. If you're not feeling good and you don't want to be involved, if it's something you don't want to do and you feel you should, then, you know, it's about making your choice, choosing how to respond. Mm-hmm. You know, I really believe in doing stuff that I want to do all the time. And the more you do that, it's like Jamie and I were having a conversation the other day, the more you do that, the more you end up doing everything. Because actually you want to do everything. You're in that state of really feeling good in whatever you do. So, yeah, just, you know.
Action, which is very different. When you're in inspired action, that just flows. It's effortless.
Yeah.
And that's when you're in alignment with your thoughts and feelings as one. So, you know, we can do that for ourselves. And we're the only ones that can do it for ourselves. Exactly. So to tap into that is a powerful tool. It's a no-brainer in some ways.
Absolutely. It's funny, I just had an incident about a car. I have a car that had a big problem. I'm driving it, and all of a sudden it conks out in the middle of a section anywhere. So I've got to get it fixed. So I found a place to get it fixed, and my girlfriend said, oh, how much is it going to cost? And this, and I said, I really don't care how much it's going to cost. I have to do what I have to do. It has to be fixed. Whatever it costs, it costs. And it's sort of putting a different twist on it, so it really didn't bother me, because whatever had to be done, had to be done. I wasn't thinking of, oh, how much it's going to cost, and how long it's going to be. No, because that's not going to help the situation, but that's how she was. And I was looking at her, and I said, oh, it doesn't matter. She said, what do you mean it doesn't matter? I said, well, it doesn't matter. It is what it is.
Well, it's true, because once again, we don't always have control over the situation, but we always have control how we're going to choose to feel about the situation. Exactly. That's always within our power. Mm-hmm. So it's a great thing to practice.
Exactly.
And it takes practice.
And a lot of times when something, what looks like negative, like I've, not too long ago, I had somebody run into my car. Well, actually, it's been a few years now. And I just said to myself, something good is going to come of this. Something good. Well, yeah, something good came of it. I got a whole new paint job, and she paid for it, you know. Like,
you see? There you are, the positive side.
But if I had gone to if I had gone to the negative and thought, oh, no, my car, oh, boo-hoo, like I used to do when I was a drama queen, that would have been a big drama that I would have milked for a long time. You know, instead I just go, wow, okay, this happened, and something good is going to happen from this. I know something really good will happen. And it does.
And usually does. And the other thing, too, is if you go to that negative place, stop and ask yourself, does this negative feeling have anything to do with my now? Because oftentimes we'll refer back to something that happened long ago and come up with a negative, but it has nothing to do with our now. Mm-hmm. So to check in, does that have anything to do with my now? Like I was stuck at a freight train and I was going to be late and I panicked for about 1 millisecond. And I asked myself, does this have anything to do with my now? And I said, no, it doesn't, because I am never late, ever. And lo and behold, the train passed. I was on my way and I was my usual 5 minutes early. But I could have really gotten, hung up on being late and gone to that place of panic. And so it's really just about stopping, taking a breath, and asking that simple question. Does this have anything to do with my now? And usually it doesn't. It doesn't.
Okay, fantastic. So we got to wind the show down. We're kind of coming to the end. So But before we do, let's go around real quick. Just say one tip to our viewers how to stay positive.
Smile.
Smile. Oh, yeah, you took it from me, Helen.
Oh,
I think
sorry.
it's smile. I also think it's how you stand and how you are and how you walk and how you greet people and how you actually present yourself. So I think before you walk into an office or into any where you've got an appointment or whatever you're doing, just take that little breath and put that smile on yourself and walk in with confidence, because and stand up straight. The person on the other side will look at you and they will change too, because oh, look, there's a happy person. And everybody, it seems, although they're not, they always love to see a happy person.
Yeah, great. Helen, you sticking to it?
Oh, yeah.
Smile. Okay. Summer?
Smile. I like the smile. Also, I think it takes a conscious effort to really want to be positive, and always listening to positive things, positive TV shows like this. I watch a lot of things on YouTube. I read positive books. I do everything I can to stay positive and to be around positive people.
Awesome. Jamie?
Reach for a thought that feels better.
All right, awesome. And for me is stay in the moment in the present moment as much as possible. Mm-hmm. All right, so I want to thank all of our viewers as well as our guest cast Summer Simonton and the entire cast as well, and everybody behind the glass for making this show an incredible show on the planet, and to also make consciousness something that people can actually now be present to be able to view it, to be able to see it, and to be able to feel it. Also, I'd like to invite you to come to our website at livingconsciously.tv and vote on all of our shows. And the more you vote, the more it will be played on channel 56, 57, and 219. And come to our site also on Facebook at facebook.com/livingconsciously.tv. Thank you very much. I love you all, and I look forward to our next show right here in the studio next week, same place, same time, 3 p.m. Mountain Standard out of Denver. Thank you all.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Steve.
everybody.
Thank you, Summer.
Thank you.